Do autistic women present differently than autistic men? Sometimes they do, and in this video, we're going to talk about autism traits in women. There's differences across the autism spectrum, but also between how autism looks for men and women. This has led to some challenges in diagnosing women because it presents differently than men. So there are a lot of commonalities, but how it looks or doesn't look for those high masculine women out there can be unique. In this video, I'll share 10 common autistic traits and how they specifically could look in women to help everyone better understand. So let's get started. Social challenges. A core part of an autism diagnosis is struggling socially. For all autistics, boys and girls, men and women. But for boys, this can look like socially isolating more often, and doing this by choice, which is why a lot of educators and doctors might see social isolation or often choosing to be alone as a cue for autism referral. Girls also struggle socially, but because of biology or social conditioning or whatever makes us so different and unique as humans, many girls feel a great need to be a part of a group and have friends. But they also have the autistic tendency to ruminate or keep replaying situations over and over and over in their heads, analyzing the social issues and feeling misunderstood and lonely. So even though they might appear to do great in a group setting, they could go home later and feel exhausted or upset by how they think they did in that situation. So autistic girls and women might appear to not struggle so much socially, especially the older they get, but it doesn't mean they don't have a lot of internal struggles due to social challenges. But I'll break those down in more detail right about now. Special or focused interest. Restrictive interests, as the DSM-5 calls them, or special or focused intense interests, are common to autistic people. It's part of having a focused mind that can sometimes be monotropic or very singular. But the interest of many boys and men are sometimes more noticeable or draw more attention than women because they might seem a bit odd or almost too narrow or be really fixated on specific things. For instance, I know an autistic boy in elementary school whose focused interest is U.S. military tanks, specifically from World War II. This might expand a bit. Now he's also interested in other military equipment of World War II, but this topic has been an intense focus for him since he was in kindergarten, so for several years already. And he knows a lot about this topic. A lot. Everything. Just details and stuff that nobody needs to know. For a kid growing up not in the US, it's pretty noticeable when this is all he wants to talk about. For other boys, it's been the Avengers, certain sports, or a specific thing or hobby. But for many girls, the special interest might be broader or seem more normal, like certain celebrities, or horses, or Barbies, or even books and reading. They also might focus intensely on a specific person, like a best friend or a crush. So teachers or doctors might not notice this as much because it seems similar to what many girls do. But the level of focus and the irritability when not getting to spend time with this interest can differ from non-autistic peers. Later in life, autistic women are often great researchers because they deep dive into a topic, like psychology. Still a special interest, but one that society has deemed not as newsworthy. And therefore, one way that autism traits in a woman might be a bit hard to see. Masking and camouflaging. Studies show that autistic girls and women work harder to fit in with others and generally be more social than many autistic men, who can often be content with smaller social circles and being alone more often. Because of this, autistic women commonly expend a great deal of energy masking their autistic tendencies and camouflaging their differences in order to seem normal. This means that when autistic girls are young, they may try to camouflage by actively practicing ways to hide their autism, such as mimicking the social interactions of others, talking about topics that are more socially acceptable than the ones they might really want to discuss, even changing the way they walk to appear more like other girls. Now, a lot of people make efforts to fit into social circles, but research is starting to show clearly that it's more complicated for autistic girls and women. They may have to actively suppress their autistic tendencies, like stimming, or getting away when overstimulated, or even lessening the number of social activities and commitments, because it's all too much. Executive functioning challenges. Similar to men, many autistic women struggle with executive functioning challenges. I struggle with executive functioning challenges, oh my God. Barely tie my shoes. Examples of this can include time management or task management, like keeping spaces clean or remembering daily hygiene tasks. Starting and finishing tasks can be a challenge, especially with things that aren't interesting or outside of the normal routines. Task switching can also be challenging for autistic people. So things like working on one thing at a computer and then being interrupted by a question or a meeting or a phone call. No sanko. Exercising self-control and flexibility can be really, really hard for autistic people. But for women, this can look like getting overly emotional over things that come up and break routines. like getting a phone call that interrupts them when they are just about to finish the current task they are doing. And then that task ends up unfinished, but it's hard to switch back to it after it's done. But for autistic women, unmasking and showing some of these struggles, especially around people they might feel more comfortable with, like their family, can be really hard. Really hard. Autistic people are sometimes labeled as dramatic when changes come up that other people think aren't a big deal, or when they can't do the thing that's a normal part of life for others, such as get to an appointment on time or make themselves get into a shower, even though the sensory sensation of water trickling down their faces seems like way too much at that particular moment. We'll talk about emotional dysregulation and sensory sensitivities more in a minute, but handling executive functioning challenges can be hard for autistic people. For autistic men, it could look like anger or frustration, whereas for women, it could be crying or being emotional, things that people often think is a normal but perhaps heightened reaction. More on this is coming later in the video. Sensory sensitivity. Autistic people experience the world in vastly different ways than non-autistic people, which can lead to complications. Like when someone walks into a room and they say, "God, it's so loud out here." Or, "The sun hurts my eyes." It's so common for others to downplay it, maybe saying,
"Oh, it's not that bad."
Or,
"You just need time to adjust."
But for someone autistic, it's not that simple. The world can be full of sensory overwhelm due to heightened senses. Itchy clothes or clothes that are too tight could lead to a meltdown or just an ongoing undercurrent of irritation all day. For autistic women, this can be especially hard because others might say, "Ow, she's just being moody today," or just think the autistic woman is difficult. That's undermining how hard sensory sensations can be for autistic people. Many women describe feeling like they can't say anything about these issues. They know they shouldn't just sit there with their hands over their ears or wear sunglasses indoors because that's weird and other people won't really like it. So they might not complain, but inside they could be struggling and inching closer and closer to a shutdown or a meltdown. Restrictive food habits. We have another video that dives into unique food habits and challenges for many autistic people that I'll link below. But going back to the routines and interests of autistic people, these sometimes connect to food and wanting to keep eating the same foods over and over and over, or not eating them due to sensory sensations. For autistic women, this can sometimes become even more pronounced with restrictive food habits. Based on research done in 2020, it's been shown that 20 to 35% of women with anorexia nervosa meet criteria for autism, whereas less than 1% of the general population of women meet criteria for autism. Some researchers are more recently connecting ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, to autistic people who avoid foods or restrict what they eat for reasons that do not focus on weight or body image. That's not to say that some autistic people don't also develop anorexia nervosa, but it's quite complicated, especially if autism is undiagnosed. Some researchers believe the restrictive thinking of autism connects to the restrictive eating habits of many autistic women. Perhaps this is because it's a spot where autistic women can hold more control over their lives that can often seem overwhelming and chaotic otherwise. Sleep issues and exhaustion. Many autistic people experience difficulties with sleeping, and this is something talked about often in our other videos. But for autistic women, the sounds of a partner sleeping or even the presence of someone else can impact sleep quality. For instance, listening to the breathing of a partner while sleeping, especially during periods of autistic burnout, could make sleep near impossible for many autistic people. But for autistic women, they might feel especially unable to address these issues without offending their partners. How do you tell your husband that he snores too loud without hurting his feelings? "You snore too loud. Stop snoring." But without sleep, exhaustion and the feeling of going through life in a fog is common for many autistic women, and they often struggle to advocate for themselves in ways to improve the situation. Stimming. Stimming refers to self-stimulating behaviors that everyone does at times, but are much more pronounced with autistic individuals. They're often unconscious ways to respond to stimulation, and very frequently to calm an overstimulated brain. Some common stims that people think of first are rocking, hand flapping, repeating specific words or phrases, or maybe jumping or twirling for kids, and pacing for adults. For women, stims can be a bit more subtle. Skin picking or hair twirling, or moving specific parts of the body, like toes or certain isolated muscles. These can be ways that autistic girls and women learn to stim in less obvious ways. Dancing and listening to the same music over and over and over again are also more socially acceptable forms of stimming that many autistic women do. Emotional regulation challenges, including meltdowns. So many autistic women try to internalize their struggles, where they fester and could lead to other problems, like heightened anxiety or general loneliness. They know they are struggling, but don't know how to get the help they need due to being told they were overreacting for most of their lives and being told through words and actions not to complain about it. Emotional regulation can be a challenge at times for anyone, including non-autistic women, but it hits autistic women in very, very pronounced ways. During especially hard times or autistic burnout, autistic women might completely go into shutdown mode or be unable to form clear sentences. The loss of ability to clearly articulate thoughts and feelings at these times can be hard, not only for other people, but also for the confidence and ongoing mental health for many high-masking autistic women. They feel guilty later or weak and wonder why they can't get it together. They feel like a burden on others, but they can't get themselves to adjust. They might yell or have a meltdown or cry or just completely shut down. During times of extreme emotional dysregulation, autistic women may seem to lose control of their rational thinking, as autistic brain wiring already changes how emotion and rational thoughts are wired differently than non-autistic brains. But for high-masking autistic women, they might try to hide these things, even at home. Then when they happen, it seems more alarming to others, and even to themselves, as they seem to lose control, often at a time when it doesn't seem like anything happened to trigger that response. It can often be a buildup of challenges through a period of time. When a meltdown finally happens, it can happen outwardly or internally, but it leaves the autistic women completely exhausted, sometimes for days. But often, they're encouraged by friends or family to force themselves to get up and go do things, especially social things, which can sometimes make it even worse. Yeah, that'll make it way worse. Don't do that. Ladies, don't do it. Don't do it. Connected medical and mental health challenges: anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, eating disorders. Studies show that up to 70% of autistic people have at least one co-occurring medical or mental health condition. And keep in mind that these statistics are still skewed due to there being many undiagnosed autistic adults out there, many of them women. But anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, eating disorders, migraines, all of these are common to many autistic people, including autistic women. Keep in mind that many non-autistic people also struggle with these issues, but because of the unique challenges of being autistic in today's world, rates are often higher for the autistic population. Then add in factors like camouflaging and changing your own identity to fit in socially, as well as the sensory challenges and general overwhelm that comes with daily life as an autistic person. It's not very surprising that anxiety and depression in particular are much higher for autistic women than for the general population. But often, autistic women are first diagnosed or misdiagnosed with other conditions, such as bipolar or borderline personality disorder. If autism continues to be undiagnosed, treatment options and therapy that many women might seek aren't available because the correct diagnosis hasn't happened. This is why it's so important that more medical professionals, therapists, and even teachers and educators better understand how autism often looks a bit different for girls and women than for autistic boys and men. This can help us all better support the needs of everyone. So which traits surprise you? Or what would you add to this list of common autistic traits in women? Drop your thoughts and questions and your own experiences in the comments. We learn a ton, and even more importantly, everyone in our community can learn from these comments too. It's also so helpful and supportive for others to know that they are not alone when they experience similar things in their own lives. And don't forget to subscribe for more autism and neurodivergent content. We appreciate your support, and as always, thanks for watching. This one's for you ladies out there. Two things I love in this world: autism and the ladies. Let's drink to that. Stupid. Idiot. I'm so nervous.